Hey everyone, it's Michelle, the Stamp Doctor, and I wanted to show you some great new little flowers with Hershey's Kisses in them that I came up with using a couple of die sets. And this one says, "You're the best," and the kiss comes right out of it. And here we have, "It's a celebration." And again, you just lift the kiss right out of the middle of the flower so you don't have to destroy it to take the candy out. And the peach one is my favorite, or the yellow orange. And the white one, I didn't do it as great as I wanted to, but it was a test. So let me go ahead and explain to you what die sets I'm using. And so to start with, the teardrops and leaves is what I'm using to make the flowers. Okay, and then I've used the multi-banner dies, and this is a print I'll show you that I'm using. I also have stamps coming in on Monday, but they may or may not work because they're so small. They may not stamp great, so I have some test ones coming in. Then I used a circle out of the Dr. Bag set, but you could use any circle die. And then I used the scallop circle, the largest one, for the base of the flower. And I'll explain all the pieces parts as we go here. To go ahead and start with, I'll show you the multi-banner prints. So the multi-banner dies are attached, and it's so you can cut banners very quickly. This one is the stitch one. Okay, and I gotta grab my glue. Hold on one second. Forgot I moved it. Sorry about that. Alright, so for the multi-banners, I'm doing these prints, and you can see I've taken some off here. And I'm going to do these both digitally, and I will sell them as pre-printed. And this is just one of the sets that I have. I also have a birthday, you go girl kind of set. So I'll post the link for these, and how they work is you just trim past it, and the black line is the outside of the die line. So you can easily line it up. Okay, and then you're going to use the stencil tape and hold that in place. And I like to tape off the cut if I can. I put my tape right against the edge of the die, and I kind of rub it down with my fingernail to make it stick to the die. And then I try to tape off my finished piece just so I don't end up tearing it or ripping off the print, or I do that even when I'm stamping. Now you can see this one was a test one, and this is a little bit too far over, and it's going to cut off the stuff on there. So don't look at that. I just was too lazy to go print it again because I want to perfect it before I print more of them. But anyways, you get like 9 of each saying on one, and then you get 8 of each saying on the other in just one of these little half cardstock sheets. So that's the multi-banners, and more on those later. If anyone has questions, you can definitely ask me. Okay, so now the teardrops and leaves. So you can do all different kinds of flowers. You can use a lollipop in the center as a flower. And I had been playing with this a long time ago with some crepe paper. And I would rather have crepe paper that you can just pick up at the store. So this is what I went and got, and I tried. Now, I already had my crepe paper rolls at the time, some test rolls. So I was able to do a comparison by having started with this and then said, okay, let's go see what we can get from what you buy at the store. So just to let you know, I did go ahead and cut. And for the longer pieces, the large ones, you can see you're not going to be able to get that really out of the smaller rolls of crepe paper, first of all. Now, granted, I do trim this off, as I'll show you in a little bit. So you could technically use it, but let me show you the differences in crepe papers. And I did forget these, so keep in mind that I'm not a video person, and that's not my whole forte of my world, so please forgive me for not being completely prepared. I do try. Alright, so this is the crepe paper that I sell, and you can see how much stretch it has. So you're always going to want to cut with the point of the die going in the same direction as the grain of the crepe paper. So for instance, here's an unstretched one, and you can see how much stretch, if I wanted to go all the way, I can get out of that. Okay, that gets quite a lot. If you look at the store-bought crepe paper from just like Dollar Tree or whatever, there's no stretch. There's no give. Now granted, this will probably still make some cute little flowers, but they won't be able to be formed and fluffed, and so you just can't do it. And it leaves a light spot in it where like it almost pulls the color away. So feel free to get your crepe paper wherever you like. Do whatever you like. I did get a couple of comments that my crepe paper was just blah. But for those of us that really want to do it fancy, this specialty premium crepe paper is the bomb. So now I'm not going to jump right into doing the flower. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I prep to do the flowers, because so many times I feel that we just run to, oh look, do this, do this, do this, but if you're trying to prep it, how in the world do you get it to the point where you can make a lot of them easily? So that's what I'm going to show you. So to begin with, I'm using the yellow-orange, one of my favorite colors. All right, and what I did is I printed, and I'm going to include this in as a template on cardstock in every package of these from now on. Okay, so what I did is I printed and I positioned them as tight as I could to save as much crepe paper as I could in the height of the paper rolls that they are. They're just under 5 inches. And then what I did is I just cut a piece of cardstock to the width that they take up. So you can see here, there's a little bit of space on either side, but I still try to make it as tight to the dies as possible. And then what you do with your roll, I'm just going to take a section of this to show you. So this would be on the roll, okay? You're going to take your paper, and I'm not going to quote the dimension. I'm going to let you measure because I don't remember what it was, and depending on if you follow or position your dies, I don't want a number stuck in your head. So all you're going to do is roll this around this cardboard, or I mean, excuse me, cardstock, okay? And you could keep it straighter than I did because that's helpful. Okay, so you want to count that you have 1, 2, 3 on the bottom of your cardstock and 1, 2, 3 on the top of your cardstock. So now you have 6 layers, okay? And that's how many I cut through at once because I'm using 6 of each size petal. So then you would just slip this out. You can kind of slide that to be straight. Then I would take my dies, I'll show you how to use this pattern, and I would put it on top, and then I would cut them out. Okay, so because I wanted to let you know how many you can get out of one roll of this paper, it's like 8.2 feet. You can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 full-size flowers, and then you're going to have a bunch of leftover that you can get a bunch of smaller petals, and you may want to just make small flowers and not use the Hershey's Kiss. And of course, some people might want to make them bigger too. There's no harm in that. Okay, I didn't add the circle die to this because, here's mine. I think I fit it right. Well, this isn't my original, this is my original, but you can see how they're wider. But I would just add this in here as a way to cut my circle at the same time, or you could position and cut your circle out of whatever. But you can see that you're going to be able to get more petals out of your leftovers. And by the way, I ran through and I have cut and cut and cut petals out of this, and so crushed it with the pressure of the machine over and over and over again. And honestly, it still stretches. It still stretches very well. And I did notice that you can only do one pass with the other crepe paper and it was already flattened. So, so there's my leftover. So, recap, roll it around your width of cardstock 6 times, pull it out. You're going to get 6 flowers out of one roll. There was a little bit of leftover. Okay. Now, how to use this template. So I'm going to tell you a couple of tricks that I do with my dies and using tape. So, oh, I also did use a larger circle out of the Dr. Bag set, and I'll show you what that's for in just a second. Okay, so what we're going to do, we have our template, and then you're going to need stencil tape, contact paper. You could use Scotch tape if you wanted to. It's still going to come off. So I'm going to tear a strip of this off, and I'm going to lay it on my template face up, And what I'm going to do, I'll start with this guy on the side here. Just kind of make sure all 4 dies are going to get some of the tape. And then you're going to lay the die with the cut line upward. And you're just going to get it as close to that template. Doesn't have to be exact. It's just a guideline to save crepe paper. Make sure my cut lines are up. Alrighty. So just let go. Just kind of now hold this lined up there. Kind of slide it over. Perfect. Good enough. Alright, then we're going to put this little dude over here. Okay. And you could make them bump tighter together if you wanted to. I just wanted to leave enough room, and the die line is a little bit larger. So, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put my circle that I want to cut also at the same time. And you guys can feel free to fast forward me, but there are people that do want to know, you know, some tricks to how to do this. So, whoops. We'll go ahead and put some tape. Is that the right place? If it's backwards, I'm not sure. Okay, so we're going to do this, and we're going to stick my little circle down in here. And it's okay if the edges of the dies touch. It won't hurt anything. Okay, so that was done with our template. And now, this sticky will probably stick to whatever we cut, and then the tape will pull it apart and ruin it. So the cure for that is baking soda, not cornstarch, but baking soda. So I filled these little shaker bottles, and I'll try to get, I have a bunch of these, I'll get them online, they're pretty inexpensive. But I filled it with baking soda, and when I do shaker cards and I position 2 dies together, or whatever, if I don't want it to stick, this is what I do. So we're going to sprinkle some baking soda on there, and then we're going to rub it. And we just want to fill in all the leftover sticky that's left on that tape so that it doesn't go in and ruin our project. So once we have all that done, tap it off. You could save it. That just ended up on the floor for the vacuum cleaner here. Alright, so just test with your fingers. Yep, not too sticky. Or not sticky at all, actually. Okay, now I'm going to take my crepe paper, and I am going to position it. And now I got mine super close, super exact to where the edges are. You might give yourself a little bit of leeway. I'm pretty comfortable with this. So now I would put this in my machine, run it through, and cut all 6 layers at one time. So here, that's your template. I did notice after cutting several of these, probably my 3rd one, the tape being squished pushed the sticky back up through the pores of the tape, and it did stick just a little bit to the crepe paper. Not enough to ruin it, but go ahead, grab your baking soda, sprinkle some more on, rub it away. That will keep your template from sticking to your crepe paper or whatever stuff you're doing. So there's my circle. Okay, then you're going to cut whatever of the leaves. I did use the 3 largest leaves out of the set, and I just cut them out of the green. Now you could tape the dies together. Just slap a piece of tape on there, baking soda. I don't think you really need a template. You can position those however you want. It's just more important that all of these points went vertically so that they lined up with the crepe paper pleats. Okay, then here is the circle for the base. And the other circle die that I used, I cut out. And this is mirror cardstock I had scrap of, and I deliberately did it in black so that I could show you, bring that back over here, how I do it. So, really quick, let me do a flag on a Hershey's Kiss, which I did forget to grab the kisses. Alright. So, I have a limited workspace. I don't know how many people know that. So, what I'm going to do is I have a plain flag, okay, and I am going to put the tape runner on the back of it, and then I have You're So Amazing cut out, and I will do the tape runner on the back of it. Okay. So now they're both sticky, and I'm going to take my Hershey's Kiss, And I'm going to take my little flag and I'm going to go pretty close to the top of the kiss, pretty tightly. And we'll just line up that paper behind here. Okay, and then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to just sandwich it with the other flag. Kind of stick my finger in here to make sure. Nope, not lined up. Okay, so, sorry, I'm a little far away from my eyeballs to be able to see. You know what? I actually have two different sets of flags cut. I did not realize that. I'm a dork. I apologize. So, since I'm holding this, I'm just going to go ahead and stick it. But, helps when you put two of the same flag together. You know, if it weren't for preparedness going awry, I don't know what I would do. But, oh well. So, you stick it together. You can kind of crunch your foil. Oh, that one came off. Alright, so that happens. That's a Hershey's Kiss that needs eaten. And by the magic of television, we will just grab one that did work. Ta-da! So you could prep all your kisses that way and just kind of scrunch your foil up. Make sure it holds in place. Alrighty. Best laid plans go awry. Alright, so I have some little cups here. And what I like to do, I can cut more than 6 of each of the petals, but I only need 6 for each flower. And so I wanted to pre-fluff them, and I put them in these little cups so that I didn't have them blowing around on the table. And what we're going to do, just to let you know too, you're going to trim off the point of the, let's go small, medium, large, extra large. And so you're going to cut off the large and extra large tips. Now the white flower, it ended up larger and kind of wonky because I did this one first and I didn't cut the tips off, so you can see it pushes them out farther because of the tip. So it's up to you. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to use Glossy Accents as my glue, and I am sitting down, so I hope you can hear me. And I will try to stay in my focus range here on the camera. Sorry, I have zero brain today. Alright. So we're going to take a flower petal and a little bit of Glossy Accents, and we're going to stick it down here. And if you want, you can kind of slide it and buckle it, and then just hold it in place for a second, and the Glossy Accents will grab. And then you're going to have a little bit of overlap. Okay, and you just want a tiny bit of the Glossy Accents to glue it down. You don't want too much of it. Let me pour that cup out. And just a little bit of overlap, maybe a little tiny bit of the buckle. And I'm sure you could make different types of flowers. Here's the thing though, I'm not a florist and I'm not a perfectionist. I'm a hobbyist and I'm a crafter. I'm not going to worry about getting all of these things done so that they look like a realistic flower. That's just not going to happen for me. So if you want to do that, I say awesome. If you have the training that makes you see it that way, that it needs to be like that, that's great. I'm sure they will turn out beautifully. I'm going to smear that into the second section because I got too much. Alright, so overlap, maybe a little bit of tuck, press it and hold it. Alrighty, now this one, for some reason, I'm not sure why, I'm only doing 5 petals around, and it seemed to come out. You know, sometimes you do your spacing differently. I'm going to wipe some of this glue on the back, stick that down. Alright, this corner, it didn't get wet. So it's not, like each application, you're not going to put it down exactly perfect, but it's not a big deal. Just go around and do it. So we'll do 5 on that one. Alright, and now we're doing the large. So I'm going to go on the seam of this one and put some glue. You know what I forgot? I forgot to show you how I stretched the petals and prepared them. Let me stop and do that real quickly. Boy, you know, I make a checklist and I still don't follow it. Alright, real quickly, how you're going to do it, of course you kind of saw me do it at the beginning, is you're just going to take your petals and you're going to just give them a little stretch. This one's overstretched because I did show you that this paper stretches easier. So you're going to just give them a pull here and not so much at the base. Just kind of round it out with your fingers, and that's how they look like this. So I'm sorry, I kind of missed that there. All right, a little bit more glue here. And we're just covering over the seam of the previous two where they come together. And it kind of sticks to your fingers. It comes through the crepe paper a little bit and sticks to your fingers, and just try not to keep it in place so long that you get glued to it. Not a big deal. This one, there we go. Stick it down. I love the Glossy Accents as a glue because the more time you give it to kind of tack up, the faster it grabs, and it dries clear. So for the most part, I don't have a lot of goobers. Whoops, get back here, you. You ever have those days when your fingers are just not coordinated? That's what mine are doing today. All right, and you can see here, missed my corner a little bit. No worries. Tiny bit of the Glossy Accents. All right. Whoops, see, my finger caught it. No big deal. Just put a little tiny bit more. I don't have a lot of fingernails, but I do tend to take my fingernail and press it down. Okay. And this is just going to be repetitive. You can fast forward to other parts of the video if you get bored with this. That's totally fine by me. Okay. But I do want to show somebody who's maybe a beginner or doesn't do well with skipping steps or skipping it and wants to follow it to completion. I want to make sure I show everything. Alright, here's this last one. Okay. Now I personally think this is just kind of a cool flower anyway that you could form and shape and have like a dark center or a colored center in it. That's just me. Okay, now we're moving to the medium petal, and we'll start here. Now these have their point, and you want that point to come. You want to keep the edges of the petals kind of uniform to each other. Okay, lift that up before it glues me to it. Don't need quite as much of the Glossy Accents. Looks like my bottle's getting close to empty. So I don't think I have any of the larger bottles in stock, but I do buy the larger bottles, and I use them to refill. Whoops, spread that around. Refill the small bottles so that I have an easier size to use and manipulate than the great big huge bottle. Trying to get that down in there and get that point down in there is hard. So I do like just refilling. You just grab this with a pair of pliers and pop the top off of it. Squeeze some refill in there. Okay, I held my finger in that area for a little bit too long, so it's trying to grab me, but I managed to get away. 2 more petals here. And you start kind of losing track of where your overlap is, but by the time you get there, you'll be okay. I'm going to tuck that one back behind. And well, you can see which petal size I used based on the template on where to place them. So, let go of me. Okay, I have so much stuck on me that I'm going to just take and rub it off. If you have a wipe, you could wipe off your hand just to get rid of that extra sticky. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to just let it actually set up and dry completely. That way you stop getting it so thick. We don't want to wait. Now I'm going to go ahead and work quickly here, and I'm just going to put some all the way around just to... I don't normally do that because it does dry out. So stick that guy down in there. It just takes a little touch. If you don't like getting glue on your fingers, you could use a ball stylus or any other little tool to poke down in there and press against that adhesive and not get glue on you. Up to you. So having these little petals all pre-curled means that you could work pretty quickly, and by having the template where the dies all stay uniform together in the direction that you need them to go, you should be able to make lots of these fairly quickly that way. Alright, so there is, and this one's trying to curl up, and you know, it's nature, it will do what it wants. So then I'm just going to put a little bit more adhesive in the center. Now this is the whole stack of 6 that it cut out, 6 layers at one time, right? I'm just going to lay that down in there, and I'm going to press it and hold it. And then what's going to happen is some of them are going to come loose, and you can just flake up the extra. But it's easier to me to just have that work like that. Let me put my pin in my glue. I do sell these rust-proof pins. Alright, so we had our cups. I had that one extra petal. Alright, so here is essentially the flower. And here's a comparison. Well, let me grab the peach one. Where did I? Buried it under the chocolate. Here we go. Okay, so if you want to have it more bunched up, what you're going to want to do, make sure that's stuck and dry, and you might want to, another one came off, you might want to do these, set this aside for the done ones, and build another one and another one if you're making multiples, and then come back to it later. So I'm going to take my Hershey's Kiss here, and I'm going to just gather up my petals. Now this part I struggle with. I'm not going to try to gather them all up one after another. And I'm only going to do this with the kiss inside it because I don't want to over squish it. And honestly, I even do this, okay? I'm terrible. I am not a genteel girly girl. I am terribly a tomboy. Okay, so there's our circle on its base, right? And I squish them up around the kiss. Now I'm going to take the kiss out. So now it's more upright like that, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the outer petals and I'm going to start kind of pulling them out and shaping them. Again, not a florist, but I'm happy with the flowers I end up with. Alright, so now what you're going to notice is, see how far apart those petals are and they're curled? But these are nice and tight together. Alright, I'll show you what I did with that. I'm going to come back with my Glossy, and I am going to just put a tiny drop up on here. I think that's actually, there we go, too much, let's take some off. And I'm just going to press that. So I have my finger inside, I'm just going to press, okay? This one is overlapped that way, that's fine. We'll peel it back, we'll put a little tiny bit, we'll glue it. You can glue as high or as low as you want. And I do struggle with doing flowers. I did not inherit any of my mother's home interior capabilities. Not sure why that is, but I did not. So now see, that's all connected around the outside. Give that just a second to set up. Alright, that looks better. It's holding its outside. And again, you're gonna play with it. You're gonna form it how you want. You can get tweezers, you can get a little pick, pokey tool, whatever. Pull this up, fluff it backwards. You know, you're gonna mess with them, and this is probably my 7th or 8th flower, and I don't know if I could actually say that I am still that comfortable with forming them. But I've been okay. I've been happy with the results that I have gotten, so I guess I accept my limitations. But, okay. So, like I said, just play with it. Make it your own, as everyone likes to say these days. That circle down in the bottom, if you start pulling up too high, you're going to lose your Hershey's Kiss space. So try to be mindful of that. You can, but I mean, I've taken them and I've crunched them several times like this, just to get buckle inside the petals, and then I've refluffed. And sometimes the more you mutilate it, my word, mutilate, sometimes the more you do that, the better they look to me, because they're not stiff and unformed. But oops, my glue's gonna dry out. Get the lid on that. All right, so then once you're all finished and it's dry, because you don't want your Hershey's Kiss to get stuck down in there, then you have that, and it's nicely shaped. Okay, then what you're going to do is you are going to take your circle, and I just did mine green, and put some Glossy Accents on it and make sure I'm on the right side. And I am reasonably centered, kind of, sort of, a little bit. Maybe I'm off center. I'll do some yoga meditating later. Get more centered. Haha. Alright, now I'm going to take my leaves. These are still in the stack of 6, so you just wiggle them, rub your finger against an edge, get them to pop apart. Realistically, because it's not paper, there really isn't a front and a back necessarily, so you could flip it, and I still do kind of fluff out the leaf. Let me grab some from here. And I could have prepared them ahead, I know, but where's the fun in that? And I pulled that one pretty hard, but it's still alright. And do I have, I don't know, oh, I have this little shorter, fatter leaf. I only put 2 leaves. You can put leaves as many as you want, but I'm just going to pick an area, usually between 2 petals, and let's see, this is the one. I don't know if I did that one or not, to tell you the truth. I'll put some Glossy Accents on here. If you get a bunch that comes out, stop squeezing, use the bottle to just rub it out. And just stick a leaf or 2 down here at the base. Once those grab, you can kind of bend them up so that they're not just flat. Kind of poof it, whatnot. Get my flower tucked back out. I'm totally not sure how all of this looks on camera. Sorry if I'm out of the frame at all anytime. But that is a crepe tissue flower with a Hershey's Kiss presentation in the center. And again, I used Teardrops and Leaves dies. I used the circles out of this set. I used 1 circle out of this set, the multi-banners. These will be available in both digital, so you can print yourself, as well as pre-printed. And if you did need a little custom word in there, you certainly could message me from my site or send me an email, and I'm sure I could pop one in there for you, so that you can have a special occasion for that. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful time creating flowers. Happy stamping. Bye-bye.